1970. You remember where you were. You might not remember what you wore or what you had for dinner that night, but you remember the songs.
Stand by me, Mr.
That was the year R&B stopped being background music and started being your diary. The year voices were so raw and so real, they felt like somebody had been reading your mail. The year a woman from Detroit who'd already given everything to Motown dug even deeper and reminded the whole world what a human heart actually sounds like. If you were alive in 1970, these songs were more than just music. They were the soundtrack to your first real loss, the first time love didn't come back, the first time you sat in a quiet room and let a song say everything you couldn't. 1970, the year soul music got serious. And if you stay with me, I'll tell you why. One artist on this list didn't just release a hit, she released a wound. A song so personal, so painful, her label almost refused to put it out. And it went on to become one of the most played records of the entire year. But we'll get there. First, let's start where 1970 really started.
Man, you're like a child at play on a sunny...
Number 10, Stop the Wedding by Etta James.
So stop this madness.
Let me tell you something about Jamzetta Hawkins. She was 27 years old and she had already lived 3 lifetimes. Born in Los Angeles to a mother who was 14 and a father she never really knew. Raised by foster parents, discovered at 15. By the time 1970 came around, Etta James had already been through the kind of pain most people only read about. And it showed up in every single note she sang.
Don't break too hard.
Stop the Wedding was not a new song. It had been recorded before. But the way Etta delivered it in this era felt like something different entirely. Like a woman who wasn't performing heartbreak anymore. Like a woman who had actually lived it, worn it, and refused to let it go quietly. The song is about desperation, not the weak kind, the honest kind. A woman watching the man she loves walk towards someone else and finding the courage, or maybe the madness, to say stop. Don't do this. Not yet, not like this.
Feel that way too. So baby, don't do it. Don't do it.
In 1970, when Black women were expected to be strong and silent, Etta James stood at the microphone and chose to be vulnerable instead, loudly, unapologetically. And that vulnerability is what made it timeless. The record became a staple on Quiet Storm radio stations for years, the kind of song DJs played at midnight when they knew somebody listening needed to hear it. If you've ever loved someone you couldn't have, watched them choose somebody else, and swallowed that pain in silence, that's Etta James. That's Stop the Wedding.
Don't break too hard.
Number 9, Patches by Clarence Carter.
Education he never had, but he did wonders when the time.
Let me tell you about a man who knew what it meant to carry something heavy. Born in Montgomery, Alabama, blind since the age of 4, came up through the deep South at a time when the odds weren't just stacked against him, they were a wall. But Clarence Carter didn't sing around his pain, he sang straight through it. And in 1970, he gave the world Patches. This song is not a love song, not in the traditional sense. It's something deeper than that. It's a story about a dying father whispering his last words to his son from a sick bed in a poor Alabama home, telling him, "You're the oldest now. The family is yours. Don't let them down." In 1970, that hit different. There were thousands of Black families across America carrying exactly that weight. Fathers worn down by systems, sons inheriting responsibility before they were ready, daughters holding households together with nothing but faith in tired hands. Clarence Carter didn't dress it up. He told the story plainly, honestly, the way only someone who grew up inside that kind of poverty really could. Patches went to number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and won the Grammy for Best Rhythm and Blues Song in 1971. But the chart numbers don't tell the real story. The real story is the people who heard it and couldn't finish listening without pulling over, without calling their mother, without sitting quietly for a long moment and thinking about everything their parents sacrificed and never asked to be thanked for. If you've ever carried a name, a family, a promise on your back and kept moving anyway, that's Clarence Carter. That's Patches. Before we continue, can I ask you for a small favor? Only a tiny percentage of the people watching this channel are actually subscribed. That means more than 95% of you enjoy the videos but haven't joined the family yet. And honestly, that part stings a little. Videos like this don't just happen. They take hours of digging through old records, researching artists, double-checking facts, restoring audio, writing scripts, and editing visuals, all to bring back memories and give these songs the respect they deserve. If this channel has ever helped you rediscover a forgotten track, made you smile, relax, or feel a little nostalgic, that's exactly why it exists. So before we move on, take just a second to hit subscribe. It's completely free, but it truly means the world to us. It tells YouTube that this music still matters and that the work behind these videos is worth supporting. All right, now let's get back to the music.
Number 8, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours, Stevie Wonder. Let me tell you about a 20-year-old who had already been a star for 8 years and still hadn't shown the world what he was truly capable of. Little Stevie Wonder, the boy genius from Saginaw, Michigan, who Motown had been packaging and polishing since he was 12 years old. By 1970, he was done being packaged. He wanted to create, and Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours was the first real declaration of that independence.
Whoa!
Here's what makes this song remarkable. Stevie didn't just sing it, he co-wrote it, he produced it. At 20 years old, in an era when record labels controlled everything, Stevie Wonder walked into that studio and took the wheel. And what came out was pure, unfiltered joy. Because not every song on this list is about heartbreak. Some songs are about that moment when love is so certain, so solid, so real, that you just want to shout it. When you've done wrong, you know you've done wrong, and you come back anyway because what you have is worth fighting for. That's what this song is. A man showing up, fully. No games, no hiding. Signed, sealed, delivered. The record shot to number 1 on the R&B charts and top 3 on the Hot 100. But more than the charts, it became the song that showed up everywhere joy needed a soundtrack. Political rallies, dance floors, family reunions. Barack Obama used it as his campaign anthem in 2008, 38 years after it was recorded, and it still felt like a movement. Because real joy doesn't expire. If you've ever loved someone so completely that you just needed them to know, without question, without doubt, without fine print, that's Stevie Wonder. That's Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours. Number 7, It's a Shame by the Spinners.
It's a shame the way you mess around with your man.
Let me tell you about a group that almost never made it. 5 young men from Detroit who have been sitting on the Motown roster for nearly a decade, watching other acts get pushed to the front, watching their records get shelved, watching opportunities disappear before they ever really arrived. By 1970, the Spinners had been passed over so many times that most groups would have quietly packed up and gone home. They didn't, and It's a Shame was their answer to every door that had been closed in their faces.
The way you mess around with your man, oh, it's a shame the way you hurt.
The song was written and produced by Stevie Wonder. Yes, that same 20-year-old who was busy declaring his own independence was also reaching back and pulling someone else forward with him. That's who Stevie was even then. And when he handed the Spinners this record, he wasn't giving them a leftover. He was giving them a weapon. The song itself is about watching love deteriorate, that specific kind of heartbreak that doesn't arrive all at once. It creeps in slowly, the calls getting shorter, the warmth disappearing from the room. The moment you realize the person sitting across from you has already left, they just haven't told you yet. In 1970, people didn't talk about that kind of quiet heartbreak openly, but they felt it. And when the Spinners sang it, living rooms went silent across America. It's a Shame climbed to number 4 on the R&B charts and top 20 on the Hot 100. It was the record that finally cracked the door open for the Spinners, the beginning of a legacy that would define soul music for the entire decade that followed. If you've ever felt love slipping through your fingers and couldn't find the words to stop it, that's the Spinners. That's It's a Shame.
Appreciate the love we try to make.
Number 6, Ain't No Mountain High Enough by Diana Ross.
Just remember what I told you that.
Let me tell you about a woman standing at the edge of everything she had ever known. Diana Ross had just left the Supremes, the most successful female group in Motown history, the group that had defined a generation, the groups whose name was synonymous with her own. Walking away from that wasn't just a career decision, it was like leaving a version of yourself behind on the sidewalk and hoping the person walking forward was strong enough to survive alone. 1970 was Diana Ross stepping into the unknown, and she brought Ain't No Mountain High Enough with her. Now, you already know this song. It had been recorded before by Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell in 1967, but what Diana Ross did with it in 1970 was something else entirely. She didn't just sing it, she inhabited it. The spoken word introduction alone, that soft, certain, unshakable voice declaring that nothing in this world could keep her from getting to the person she loved, felt less like a performance and more like a promise. Because Diana wasn't just singing about love, she was singing about survival, about showing up, about refusing to let distance or fear or circumstance be bigger than your commitment to something that matters. In 1970, that message landed on a world that desperately needed it. Families separated by war, lovers divided by circumstance, a country trying to find its way back to itself. Ain't No Mountain High Enough went to number 1 on the R&B charts and number 1 on the Hot 100. It became Diana Ross's first solo number 1. The announcement that she hadn't just survived the transition, she had thrived. If you've ever loved someone across a distance so wide it scared you and chose to show up anyway, that's Diana Ross. That Ain't No Mountain High Enough.
Please, but remember, if you should fall short.
Let me tell you about 5 men who looked out at the world around them and decided that smooth harmonies and love songs were no longer enough. The Temptations had spent the 1960s being Motown's most polished act, perfectly choreographed, perfectly dressed, perfectly controlled. But by 1970, the world outside that controlled perfection was on fire, and they couldn't pretend otherwise anymore.
Walking down with their heads in the sky, cities aflame in the summertime.
Ball of Confusion was their refusal to look away. Producer Norman Whitfield had been pushing the Temptations towards something harder, something raw, something that reflected the streets instead of the ballroom. And with this record, he pulled them all the way there. Psychedelic soul, distorted guitars, a spoken word urgency that felt less like a pop song and more like a newscast from the edge of a breaking world.
The moon is going up too soon. Politicians say more taxes will solve everything.
The song is about everything falling apart at once. Vietnam, racial tension, political corruption, cities burning, young people losing faith, old people losing their way. The kind of overwhelming chaos that makes you want to turn everything off and sit in the dark for a while. In 1970, that wasn't poetry, that was Tuesday. People heard Ball of Confusion and felt something they hadn't felt from R&B before, validation. Like someone finally said out loud what everyone had been feeling privately. that the world was loud and broken and moving too fast, and nobody seemed to have any real answers. The record shot to number 2 on the R&B charts and top 3 on the Hot 100. It stood as one of the most politically charged records Motown ever released. A label built on crossover appeal and careful messaging, letting the Temptations tell the truth without a filter. If you ever looked around at the state of the world and felt that deep, exhausted, where do we even begin feeling? That's the Temptations. That's Ball of Confusion. Wait, before we get into the top 3, remember what I told you at the beginning of this video. One song on this list was recorded in a single afternoon. The artist cried twice during the session and almost asked for it to be destroyed. We're almost there, but first, number 4, Spider Turner, 1970. Let me tell you about a man most people forgot and shouldn't have. Born Dwight Turner in Beckley, West Virginia. A voice so elastic, so impossibly gifted that he could impersonate nearly any artist alive and make you forget you weren't listening to the original. Jackie Wilson, David Ruffin, Smokey Robinson. Spider Turner could wear any voice like a coat and still somehow sound completely like himself underneath it all. And in 1970, he brought that gift to one of the most sacred songs in all the soul music, Stand By Me. Benny King had already made this song wholly in 1961. To even touch it was a risk. To try to reimagine it was either courage or madness. But Spider Turner didn't just cover it. He poured himself into it so completely that it stopped being a comparison and became its own confession. Because Stand By Me in 1970 meant something different than it did in 1961.
Stand by me, Mr. Fred.
By 1970, the ground really was shaking. The world really was dark. The night really had fallen in ways that felt permanent and terrifying. When Spider Turner stood at that microphone and asked, quietly, vulnerably, without any pretense, "Darling, stand by me," it wasn't a love song anymore. It was a prayer. It was every person who would watch their community fracture, their relationships strain under the weight of a world in chaos, their own faith in tomorrow grow thin and uncertain, reaching out for one steady hand in all of it. The record didn't set the charts on fire. It didn't make Spider Turner a household name, but it found the people who needed it. It always does. The quiet records always find their way to the quiet hearts that are waiting for them. If you've ever been in the middle of something so overwhelming that all you needed was one person to stay, that's Spider Turner.
Where the people are so gay, twisting the night away.
Number 3, Why Can't We Live Together, Timmy Thomas.
Tell me why, tell me why, tell me why.
Let me tell you about a man who walked into a studio with almost nothing. No full band, no elaborate production, just a Hammond organ, a rhythm machine, and something burning so deep inside his chest that he couldn't leave until it came out. What came out changed everything. Timmy Thomas was a session musician, a background player, the kind of talent that made other people's records great while his own name stayed invisible.
Everybody wants to live together.
Born in Evansville, Indiana, trained, disciplined, quietly extraordinary, by 1970 he had watched enough of the world fall apart around him that the music he was carrying inside could no longer stay there. So he sat down and he played. Why Can't We Live Together is one of the most stripped back, most honest, most quietly devastating records ever made in the soul genre. There are no strings, no backing vocals, no layers of Motown polish, just that organ, that rhythm, and a voice asking the simplest, most unanswerable question of an entire generation. Why can't we live together? In 1970, that question wasn't rhetorical, it was urgent. Vietnam was taking sons and brothers. Cities that had burned in the late 60s were still smoldering in ways you couldn't see but could feel. Black and white, rich and poor, young and old. Everyone was drawing lines, and nobody seemed to remember why the lines were there in the first place. And Timmy Thomas sat down at a Hammond organ and asked why. No anger, no preaching, no political performance, just a quiet, aching, genuine question from a man who genuinely didn't understand why human beings kept choosing distance over connection, pain over peace.
Why can't we live together?
The record climbed to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 on the R&B charts. It was later sampled by Drake on Marvin's Room. 4 decades after it was recorded, a new generation felt the same ache in a completely different world. Because some questions never get answered. They just get passed down. If you've ever looked at the state of things, the division, the noise, the distance between people who should know better, and felt that deep, soul-level exhaustion of just wanting everyone to be okay, that's Timmy Thomas. That's Why Can't We Live Together? And now we're almost home. 2 songs left. The 2 that hit the hardest, the 2 that earned their place at the top of this list, not because of chart numbers or legacy alone, but because of what they did to people the first time they heard them. Stay with me.
You want to steal my brother?
Number 2, If You Really Love Me, Stevie Wonder. And if you're surprised to see him back on this list, you haven't been paying attention to what 1970 meant for this man. Because this wasn't just a good year for Stevie Wonder. This was the year Stevie Wonder became Stevie Wonder. Let me tell you about a 20-year-old who was falling in love and falling apart at the same time. Stevie had met Cyrita Wright, a singer, a songwriter, a woman whose mind matched his own in ways that felt almost impossible. They were writing together, creating together, building something that felt bigger than either of them alone. And somewhere in the middle of all of that beauty, the doubt crept in. If You Really Love Me is not a confident song. It doesn't arrive with the joy of signed, sealed, delivered. It arrives quietly, uncertainly, like a man sitting across from someone he loves completely and still somehow needing to ask, but do you?
From sight, so I've taken out.
Do you really? That specific vulnerability, that fear that lives right alongside the deepest love, the one that whispers, what if this isn't as real for them as it is for me? In 1970, people didn't have language for that feeling. Therapy wasn't a conversation most Black families were having. Emotional vulnerability in men was something the culture actively discouraged. And here was Stevie Wonder, young, gifted, celebrated, standing at a microphone and admitting he was scared. That's a courage that the charts could never measure.
The light of your smile, calling me up.
Cyrita Wright co-wrote the song, which means this wasn't just art. This was a conversation between 2 people who loved each other, trying to find solid ground. They married in 1970, divorced 2 years later, and suddenly the song takes on a weight it didn't have before. Because he was right to ask, and she was right there when he did it. If You Really Love Me reached number 4 on the R&B charts and top 10 on the Hot 100. But the number that matters most is the number of people who heard it alone in a quiet room and felt every single word land somewhere they hadn't expected.
Then you say I'm untrue.
If you've ever loved someone so deeply that the loving itself made you afraid, if you've ever needed someone to just say it one more time so you could finally exhale, that's Stevie Wonder. That's If You Really Love Me. And now, we're here. Number 1, the song I told you about at the very beginning of this video. The one recorded in a single afternoon. The artist who cried twice during the session and almost asked for the tape to be destroyed. This is the one that started it all. This is the one that earned its place at the top of 1970.
then you say I'm untrue.
Let me tell you about a 12-year-old who walked into a recording studio in Hollywood and sang like he had already lived 100 years of heartbreak. Michael Jackson was not supposed to sound like that. Not at 12, not with those eyes that still had childhood in them, not with those hands that still reached for his brothers in the dark. But when the microphone went live and the music started and Michael opened his mouth, something happened that nobody in that studio had words for. Here is the story behind this record, and this is the one I promised you. The song was written by Berry Gordy, Hal Davis, Willie Hutch, and Bob West. It had been sitting, waiting for the right voice. Several artists had been considered, names you would recognize, established, seasoned, professional, and then someone put a 12-year-old in front of it. The session was scheduled for an afternoon. What happened inside those hours was something closer to a miracle than a recording. Michael struggled with the emotion of it, not because he couldn't find it, but because he found too much of it. He understood the song in a way that made the adults in the room go quiet. He cried during the session twice, not from frustration, from feeling. He asked once if they could stop. Berry Gordy said no, keep going, and Michael kept going. What came out was a vocal performance so pure, so open, so completely unguarded that it didn't sound like a pop record anymore. It sounded like a child reaching through the speakers and grabbing your hand, telling you, I see you, I know you're scared, I know you've been hurt, but I'm not going anywhere. In 1970, that message landed on a world that was exhausted from losing things. Fathers lost to Vietnam, communities lost to poverty, faith lost to a decade of broken promises. And here was this small, extraordinary child with this enormous voice, saying the 4 words that everyone needed to hear from someone they trusted completely: I'll be there. The record went to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, #1 on the R&B charts. It became the Jackson 5's 4th consecutive #1 single. But the legacy of this song stretches so far beyond any chart position that the numbers almost feel beside the point. It became a wedding song, a funeral song, a lullaby, a reconciliation. The song people played when they needed to believe that someone somewhere was still coming, still choosing them, still showing up no matter what. It was covered, sampled, reimagined across generations. Mariah Carey brought it back in 1992, and a whole new world fell in love with it all over again, because the feeling at the center of it never aged, never expired, never stopped being exactly what someone needed to hear. And at the heart of it all was a 12-year-old in a Hollywood studio on an ordinary afternoon who cried twice and almost asked for it to stop. Thank God nobody let him stop.
And that is 1970. 10 songs, 10 stories, 10 moments that somebody poured their whole heart into, not knowing if anyone would ever really hear them, not knowing that decades later, someone like you would still be sitting with them, still feeling them, still needing them. That's the thing about real music. It doesn't ask for much. It doesn't need a stage or a spotlight or a perfect moment to find you. It just waits, quietly, patiently, in the back of a memory you thought you'd forgotten. In the middle of an ordinary Tuesday that suddenly doesn't feel so ordinary anymore. And then it plays, and you're back in that room, back in that car, back with that person, back in that version of yourself that you don't always let yourself visit anymore. 1970 gave us songs that were bigger than their era, bigger than their chart positions, bigger than anything a number or an award could ever measure. These artists sat down with broken hearts and borrowed time and gave us something that refused to die. The least we can do is remember them. So, tell me something.
Which one took you somewhere today? Which one pulled up a memory you weren't expecting? Which one made you think of someone you haven't thought about in a while? Drop their name in the comments, drop the song, drop the memory. This community was built for exactly that kind of conversation, and I read every single word you leave down there. And if this video gave you something today, if it took you back even for just a few minutes, share it with someone who needs to feel this music again. Someone who grew up on these songs and forgot how much they meant. They'll thank you for it. Until next time, keep feeling the music.